What's up, guys? Stefan, SE Garage. Today we're going to be working on our 21 TRD. We're going to be adding some OEM fog lights to this car. Now they are OEM in the sense that they are approved by Toyota, but they are not technically a Toyota part number. These come from Southeast Toyota. There's several states down in the Southeast that customize these cars at the port, and they get their accessories more or less approved by Toyota for Toyota. So this is going to be a factory seamless install, and they are going to work exactly as a factory fog light should. They will not turn on with the high beams. When you flick your high beams on, the fog lights will turn off. It comes with everything you need: the harness, the lights, the bezels, the switch, everything. So the part number that you're going to need is 00016-32099-XP. Now these are technically 18, 19, and 20 regular Camrys. So they'll fit 2018 to 2020 regular Camry. But the TRD did not get the bumper treatment that the 21 and plus regular Camrys got. So these guys right here will fit your 2020, 21, and 22 TRD Camrys. You'll see here we have our fog lights, we have our bezels, we have our harness, we have our control module, and we have our OEM fog light switch along with the T-harness that plugs in line with the driver's front headlight. These do not come with directions. What I'm going to do is I'm going to drop a link down in the description below. There's a very good, it's basically the OEM instructions from these people on Toyota Nation. Like I said, I'll drop the link. And then I'm also going to drop a link to purchase these guys on my Amazon affiliates. Like I said, if you buy from there, the channel gets a small cut. It helps us do more things like that. So we appreciate that. You guys have been great so far. So yeah. The install is very easy. You don't have to go through the firewall. There's actually a drain plug underneath the passenger footwell, or the driver's side footwell area, that they have you run the wires through. And the first thing we're going to do, we're going to open the hood. We're going to jack the car up, put it up on some jack stands, and we're going to take the undershield off so we have access to these bezels here, because these actually get replaced with these, more or less. I'm not sure if I have the right side or not. Yeah, this side goes over there, but yeah, you get the deal. So we're gonna go ahead, like I said, pop the hood, jack the car up, get underneath it, take the shield down. I'll show you exactly what we're doing. Alright guys, so the way I'm doing this, I am kind of going out of order with the directions, but what I want to do is get the fog lights in the car so they look like they're done. You know, I'm going to take these bezels out, I'm going to put the new bezels in, I'm going to mount the new fog lights, and then we're going to start wiring them up. So if you want to follow the directions step by step, the way they tell you to do it, I might not be doing it in that exact order, but we're going to cover all the bases. So like I said, I got the car up, jacked up on the jack stands at the pinch welds, which are factory jacking points. And we're going to go ahead and we're going to pull all these bolts out. They look like 10 millimeters, or you can use a Phillips head, whatever's, you know, going to work best for you. And we're going to drop this shield, and that's going to give us access to behind the front bumper. So let's go ahead and start doing that. So as you can see, the factory bumper is provisioned for fog light mounts. You have a screw hole here and a screw hole here. So what we need to do is go ahead and release all of the push pins that hold the bezel on, and we can go ahead and pop that bezel right out. So that's what we're going to go ahead and start doing. Alright guys, so once you get your OEM bezels out, the kit comes with a bunch of self-tapping screws, if you want to call them that. These are what you're going to use to mount your fog lights into the factory bumper. So you're just going to grab one of your lights, make sure you have the right side. We're going to, you know, put it in there, see how it fits, and then screw it in. It looks like it screws in from the front. No, maybe it is from the back. I don't know, I'll check the directions, I'll let you guys know real quick, and then we'll go ahead do the same thing on this side. Alright, so looking at these directions, they screw in from the back. So make sure you put them in from the back side and screw them in that way. So we're going to go ahead, we're going to make sure we have the right side. They are directional left and right. If you look at these, the lens should be facing down, more or less. So we're going to put them in just like these using 3 of those self-tappers that I showed you. You have 6 in total, 3 for each light. Alright guys, we got our first fog light mounted as pictured. And we're going to go ahead and put our bezel on. It'll tell you what side it is on the back right here. Left hand. So we're going to go ahead and snap this into place. Alright. She snapped into place, looking good. Matches the rest of the grill. It's got that same texture. So now we're going to go ahead, we're going to go over to this side. We're going to repeat the same process. Disengage those clips, pull that out, put in the fog light, put the new trim piece in. So it may be worth mentioning to you guys that this side, because the washer fluid bottle is in the way, you're going to need a stubby Phillips head to get those 2 in. And on this one, I'm actually going to be using a 1/4-inch ratchet with a Phillips head bit on it to tighten these. So just be sure that you either have a stubby or something similar. Maybe if you have a 90-degree drill, adapter, that might be even better for you. But the washer fluid bottle is going to be in your way on the passenger side. Alright guys, so we have both of our fog light bezels installed with the fog lights in. So we're good there. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and we're going to start running this wire harness. We have to run a harness from that light to this light. There's a T-harness here that's going to plug into this headlight, and then we basically run the harness up here to the battery area, and then it goes down under the car, more or less behind this fender, and up through the floor. I'm going to show you that in the directions in a moment. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to take a little bit of a break, get back out here a little later, so we'll be back with you in a minute. Alright guys, so now that we have the fog lights actually installed in the car like I showed you before, we're going to go ahead and we're going to start messing around with this harness. So I'm going to start with the fog light end. The longer part is going to be the passenger side, the shorter one's going to be the driver's side. So we're going to go ahead, we're going to plug the passenger side fog light in, and we're going to zip tie this harness up along the radiator support, make it look nice and neat. I'm going to show you that when I'm done with it. And then we're going to start running the wires into the car, up through the fuse panel and getting everything done that we need to get done to get these things working electrically. So let me get under the car. I'm going to show you exactly what we're going to do, and we'll take it from there. So I'm going to throw this somewhere in the middle of the video so you guys can learn this lesson before you make the same mistake I did. Not that I would call it a mistake. I followed the directions and I zip tied this wire to the outside of this thing under here, and it actually interfered with me putting my splash shield back on. So I went ahead and I pulled this 10mm off, this 10mm off, and this one was already off from removing the splash shield, and I routed the harness for the passenger side fog light up under this thing without zip ties. It's just using the tension of this to hold it in place, and it actually looks much cleaner, and it's not going to interfere with your splash shield. So I'm going to throw this right in the spot where I tell you to zip tie these here. Don't do that. Don't follow the directions. Do this, because it works a lot better. Alright guys, so here we have the T-harness with our end here. And this end is going to plug into this little end 3-pin connector here. So we're going to go ahead, we're going to run this 3-pin connector and the harness up into the the fender well area up here, and we are going to then zip tie and make all of our excess wiring by the fog lights and everything nice and neat so we can make this look good. Alright guys, as you can see, we have our T-harness and everything plugged into the harness, and we have our whole harness up here coming out from that fender well area, so we're good there. We're just going to pull all of our excess back, zip tie it, make it look nice and neat. And then we're going to start routing this guy. Here on the laptop, I have the directions up, and it kind of shows you exactly how they want it to go. They want the yellow side, which is basically the one that powers the fog lights, going down past the PCM, down into the fender well. And then this red one's going to make a quick right here, go towards the driver's side, and that's going to go up behind the fender. So we're going to go ahead, start getting that all routed correctly, and take it from there. Alright, so I just want to show you guys what I got here. We're plugged in here. We're zip tied across the radiator support like they say, and then it goes up here, over up behind the air intake, And then I pulled my air filter off just to show you guys exactly where we're at. So this right here is my fog light harness, and they want it routed over here through this side of the PCM, and then one side cuts to the right and goes up in this area. So let's see what they want to do in the directions, and we're going to end up running some wires into the car. This, I believe, connects to the positive terminal. This one connects to the negative terminal of the battery. If you haven't disconnected your battery yet, now would probably be a good time. And we're going to take it from there. Alright guys, so once you have your harness routed up alongside the battery, there's going to be a little relay that they're going to have you plug in and kind of tuck over here. So what I did is I opted to zip tie all this stuff to my positive lead going to my subwoofer. So it'll be nice and neat, and then I can tuck this down. I'm just going to go ahead, I'm going to trim these zip ties. This end right here with the inline fuse connects to your positive terminal. This end with no fuse connects to the negative. You should really have your battery disconnected for this. I'm not. It's not really 100% necessary, but if you're not familiar with working on 12-volt electrical systems and you don't want to short anything out, it's not a bad idea. They tell you to in the directions, but like I said, I'm not going to. So let's get this routed. This is the part of the harness that needs to come up under the fender, as the directions say, down underneath the car and up. So we're going to get to that as soon as I tidy all this up. I'll show you what I got. Alright guys, so we got our positive and negative connected to the battery here. Like I said, we made this look nice and neat right next to our power wire. So if you're looking back, you really can't see it or tell that it's there. So now we're going to go ahead and start running this end into the car. The only thing I was thinking about doing is going and grabbing my keys and just plugging this all in and seeing if they work before I go any further. So let me go get the keys. We'll plug in the module, we'll plug in the switch, we'll see how these things work really quick, and then we'll go ahead and route everything. So this is strictly for curiosity here. We went ahead, we plugged in our switch, and we plugged in our module. I'm going to go ahead and hit the switch with my thumb. You'll hear the relay click, and you'll see that both of the fog lights do come on. And this little thing lights up to let you know, hey buddy, your fog lights are on. So if I hit it again, you can hear the relay click, on, off, and so on. So we know this is all wired right, and we're good to go ahead and start getting this wire inside of the cabin. So I'm actually really excited that this works and looks really good. So let's start running the wire and get this done. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to get in the car and we're going to turn our steering wheel full lock to the left so that I can access this inner fender liner. And we're actually going to peel the back of this away, and we're going to run this wire in basically through the inner fender liner. And what they want us to do is actually zip tie it to the hood release cable. So once we get in there, we should see the hood release cable, and we'll just zip tie it to that until it ends, and then we'll run it down under the car and up through the drain that they're talking about. And once I can see that drain and where it is when we'll start getting inside and taking this apart. You guys have seen me take the inside of this car apart in my other videos. It's very simple. We're going to have to pull this guy up. We're going to have to pull this off. We're going to have to pull this out. This section here comes out. This is actually where our switch is going to go. It goes in one of these blanks here. We're going to have to pull this out, and it's just going to give us access to everything back there once we have our wire, and we're going to be able to just kind of fine-tune it, hide everything, and make it look original equipment. So like I said, let's turn the wheel full lock, let's get that fender liner out of the way, and start running that wire. Alright guys, so I got this thing as apart as I needed to. There's just a bunch of these little push pins here. You just need a flathead, pop them out. There's a couple 10mm bolts, but you really just want to be able to see this hood release pin because it's where they're telling us to route this harness. So we're going to go ahead and stick it behind the fender and just start routing it with that. And from there it comes down and goes under over here. And then it looks like it's going to go into that drain right there. But we're going to go ahead and start pulling the interior apart once we run this and see exactly where they want it to go, just to you know, cross our T's and dot our I's. So stay tuned. Alright guys, so this is how they tell you to route this harness. You're going to want to take care if you have the hood struts. So if you have a 2018 to 2020 or a 2021 that you added these to like we did, you just want to make sure that you route this thing through behind the strut, not in front of it. Otherwise you can create a possible pinch point there. So we're just going to tighten this zip tie up, make sure it's nice and tight, and we're going to trim it. And now you'll see here that we have our harness up behind the fender liner like they describe in the directions right here. You'll see it there. They have it coming out from behind the wheel too. So that's exactly how we have it. So now we're going to do exactly like they say, and we're going to zip tie it to the hood release lever cable, and we're basically going to follow this trajectory down like they have it. So I did this a little bit differently than they say too in the directions. I actually used the grommet that the hood release cable runs through. Not really the grommet, but the, whatever you want to call that, the wire router. And I undid it and I put the fog light harness into it. And then I zip tied here, and then I kind of stuck it behind this clip here. And now, like I said, they want us to run it down and then up here and then under this plastic shield. So we're gonna have to kind of crawl under the car. We can unscrew that, get it under that, and then I guess the plug that they want it to go into, the floor plug, is under this. So now that I'm here to this point, I'm gonna go ahead, reinstall my fender liner, and we're gonna get into the car and start taking it apart. So let's get to it. All right guys, inner fender liner back together, wires under the car. We're gonna go ahead and start pulling the trim out on the inside and figure out exactly which body drain they want this going through, and we're gonna go ahead and install it. All right guys, so here's where I'm at. We got this panel out here and this panel. This one pulls straight up towards you. This one pulls straight back towards the back of the car. And then I went ahead and I pulled this styrofoam out of the way. This kind of basically is the mold for your footwell. And we have our wire right here running through this body drain like they show you in the directions. What they have you do is cut an X into the body drain to route it like so right here. And then what we're going to do is we're going to get some silicone. We're just going to glob that up, make sure that's nice and sealed. And now we can start running it up through our threshold of the lower dash support. We can get all this stuff here out of the way, and we can plug it in and you know, finish up our install. So I'm just going to go ahead, I'm going to grab a glob of silicone, I'm going to goop that up real good, and I'm going to start putting that piece, you know, put the carpet back in, get the styrofoam back in, that way we're done under there. And I did very quickly, just want to show you guys what I did under here. So you'll see our wire here comes up behind the splash shield that we had out before. It comes under here, and then it goes right up there into that drain that we're going to go ahead and seal. The only thing I had to take off was a little 10mm retainer that I have right here in my hand. So we're just going to go ahead, thread that back into place, and then we're going to run it back in with our ratchet, and then we're good to go. Alright guys, so we went ahead, sealed that up real nice with some RTV silicone, and now they want us to basically run this down the threshold up here and up behind this area, because like I said, this is where the switch is going to go. So we're going to go ahead, we're going to get the carpet back together, and then I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to pull this trim panel out, we're going to pull this out and this out, and we'll put the switch in exactly where they tell us to. Alright guys, we got this panel off here, right here, put it over there. We used a little plastic trim tool. The next thing we're going to have to do is pull this guy off. This just comes right off. You just give it a yank like that, comes right off. You'll see it's held in with 3 or 4 of these push pins. We're going to put that right on the console. Next thing we're going to do, there's a couple of screws down here. There's one here, one here. We're going to pull this bottom piece out, pull this out, and that should give us access to get this trim piece out, and then we're going to figure out which you know, blank here our fog light switch goes in. We have our wire right here coming up through there. I zip tied it to my power wire from my sub, and then we can go ahead and connect everything. Alright guys, so we got that panel down. this panel out, it pops right out. You pull it straight forward. In the directions, they're going to tell you to unplug all these and pull this thing all the way out and mess with the hood release and the OBD connector. We're not going to do that. We're just going to kind of leave it like this. We're going to figure out which blank we need to pop out. We're going to pop it out. We're going to install our switch. We're going to plug it into our plug that I have sitting right here. And then we're going to zip tie this and make it look as neat as possible. I already have my wiring for my rear view mirror in here and also for the remote start, so it may look a little messy, but it's going to be as neat as I can get it for right now. So we're going to go ahead and start doing that. So in the directions here, they want us to do the second from the right, and you're going to see the little light for the fog light switch is on top. So we're going to pull out the one right next to the gas door. We're going to release that. We're going to install our switch. I'm going to go ahead and unplug it from here just so I don't have the pigtail hanging out. So we're going to install our switch like it shows, light pointing up. And then we're going to go ahead and we're going to find the place for our controller, plug everything in. One thing I want you guys to pay attention to is you'll see that the locking tangs are on either side for this. This is what locks it in place. So to release the dummies, you're going to need a flathead screwdriver, and you're going to need to depress these two tangs on it and then push it out towards the front because this clips in. You push it in straight. So we're going to get that dummy out now. Alright guys, so what I did here is you'll see the release tangs here on either side of these. I just wedged, I had two flathead screwdrivers. I just wedged one on each side and I pushed. And this piece came out. The blank, we have our new fog light switch. Second to the right next to the fuel door with the light facing up. We have our wire for the module right here. So we're going to plug in our module. We're going to zip tie it to the support bar up here, and we're going to plug our switch in. Alright guys, so there's our control module. Like I said, I put it right on the support for the dash. So we're good there. Now we're good to go ahead. We're just going to trim our zip ties up. We got one there. We got to trim these two. And we're going to put everything back together. This is going to clip in first, then the thing on the bottom. Like I said, in the directions, they say to unplug all this stuff and get it out and work on this on a workbench. But I found it just as easy to do it in the car, and it's less work. You don't have to really pull everything apart. You don't have to remember which plugs go where. It's just easier, in my opinion, to do it this way. So let's go ahead, trim our zip ties, get it back together. Once we're done with the interior, all we have to do is put our splash shield under the front back on, and then we're good to go. Alright guys, interior's all back together. Like I said, we ran the wire under the floor. You guys watch me do all that. I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to set us up on the tripod. We're going to go ahead and test these fog lights before I put the splash shield back on and everything. They should come on with the headlights as long as you turn them on. They should turn off with the headlights, and they should turn off when you flick your high beams on. So we're just going to go ahead, check everything, make sure everything is 100%, and then we're going to go ahead and put our splash panel back on, put our air filter back on, and then we're going to call it a day. Alright, let's get in. Okay, that's with the headlights on, headlights off, they turn off, headlights on, they turn on. I can turn them on and off manually, and then with the high beams on, they flick off, which is exactly what you want. So these work like original equipment, OEM factory installed fog lights. You can see as we wrapped up our install that the wiring is extremely neat. Most of it is hidden. You can kind of see some of it here, but it's not anything that's going to stand out and be ugly. So now we can go ahead, put our air filter back on, put our splash shield back on, get the car back down on the ground. If this video helped you install fog lights on your 2018 to 2020 regular Camry and 2020 to 2022 TRD, please like, share, subscribe, and we will see you next time.